move along with our agenda. And the first speaker today I would like to introduce is Pete Dickinson from City of Pullman. He's the city planner.
I think I'm going to need some help, please, from our IT professional to get my part queued up here, because I am IT challenged. Hello, everyone. It's a distinct pleasure to be here today at the Palouse Commercial Market Review. How many of you have been here for other presentations that I've made at the Market Review? Okay, all right. So you've heard me talk before. Two things you probably remember. One is that I usually start out with a trivia question. And the second is that I go through my slides pretty quickly. So if anybody would like a copy of the slides, you can come to see me afterwards, and I'll be happy to provide them to you. You can also email, call, visit the office, and we'll be happy to provide the slides to you. Today I'm going to be doing my almost mid-year report for 2016. The 6 things you should know about commerce in Pullman. And as advertised, we're going to start out with an opening question. So, for those of you, it may be a little difficult to see because of the lighting in here, but the question is, what percentage of transactions, and these are transactions from buying a cup of coffee to paying your electric bill, what percentage of transactions in the U.S. are made with cash? You remember cash, dollar bills, 20s, 10s, things like that. So, anybody have a guess as to what the answer to this question is? 17? That's a good guess. Anybody else? 7? Okay. The answer is 40%. That was a surprise. Cash is still the plurality method to use for transactions in the U.S. Now, the value of all, if you'll excuse my digression here, the value of all of those transactions is pretty low. It's only about 14%, and so it's made for small purchases. The highest value is made by electronic means. And I was also surprised to find out the age group that uses cash most often. I thought it would be old folks like me, but instead it's the 18 to 24-year-old group. They use cash more than any other age group. So you learned something today, right off the start, huh? All right. Well, let's get started with the actual program. Point number 1 of the 6 things that you should know is that by any measure, retail sales in Pullman are going up. To be fair, Pullman has been retail challenged for some time. I mean, that's just telling it like it is. But we're seeing an increase in retail sales. This chart shows for the last 20 years, retail sales in the city of Pullman. And you can see we're kind of in the doldrums there until this is... Shopko actually began business in 1995, so prior to this chart actually showing retail sales. But through the 90s and the early 2000s, kind of stable, and then in 2002, we see a real uptick to today. And the reason for that is 2002 was kind of a remarkable year in that our population really started to take off then, construction activity started to take off then, so in a lot of the charts that you'll see a distinct difference in terms of what happened before 2002 and what happened after 2002. Also, you see here the recession kind of kicked in there, 2008, 2009, but then 2009 we had the Walmart store opening, and so since then we've seen a dramatic increase in retail sales. And you might say, well, of course retail sales are going to go up by inflation for one reason, but if we hold the dollars steady in 2015 dollars, you still see an increase in retail sales here locally. It's not as much of an increase, and you still see the same kind of peaks and valleys, but retail sales are going up. Another measure is what percentage of Pullman's retail sales are of the state as a whole. And so this chart shows that. Again, the line gets even a little bit flatter here. And Pullman's percentage, of course, is very low. We're at 0.35%, thereabouts, of the total retail sales in Washington state. But the percentage of retail sales in Pullman is going up relative to the state. And they even put a trend line on here so that it's more dramatic in terms of the increase that we're experiencing there. So things are looking up with regard to retail sales. Point number 2, employment conditions in the Pullman area are favorable. This is the labor force data, again, for 20 years. This is in thousands. Starting in 1996, we were less than 19,000, and it goes up to almost 23,000 right now. Labor force, if you did not know, includes employed people and unemployed people, so it's only partly a measure of your employment situation. But you can see it's increasing, and you might think, well, of course, in all counties in the area that labor force is going to increase with population growth and job growth, but that's not always the case, and certainly not always to the same degree. This table shows in eastern Washington counties for the last 20 years, those counties that have seen the most growth, and Pullman's doing pretty well. We're number 7 out of the 20 eastern Washington counties. We're just below Spokane County in terms of labor force growth. Franklin County and Pasco and the Hanford cleanup, they're seeing explosive growth at 65.2% over the last 20 years, but Pullman is at 20.9%, so we're holding our own. There's also 6 counties in eastern Washington that actually saw a decrease in their labor force, including the 3 counties, our neighbors to the south, Columbia, Garfield, and Asotin. So, doing pretty well that way. Manufacturing job growth is particularly substantial in Whitman County, and particularly in Pullman. Over the last 15 years, Whitman County has seen a 133% increase in manufacturing job growth. Statewide, it's gone down by 10%. And so that's certainly a healthy sign for our economy. The state indicates that manufacturing jobs in Whitman County currently are at right around 2,600. And of course, Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories has announced recently that they'll bring another 850 jobs to the community. So that's welcome news. Another measure of employment is unemployment, and Whitman County always rates as one of the lowest unemployment rates here in Washington State. Right now we are the lowest in eastern Washington at 4.9%. This is as of April 2016. There's only 2 counties in Washington State that have a lower unemployment rate. That's King County and Snohomish County on the west side. But Whitman and Pullman's number 1. The overall unemployment rate for the state is 5.8%. Our neighbors to the east here in Idaho enjoy a 3.7% unemployment rate, according to the statistics that I gathered. But that's all very good news. You know, because of the educational sector, the high-tech sector that we have here, we're pretty resilient when there's economic challenges here. And so recessions don't seem to bother us too much. So I pulled this quote from the Puget Sound Business Journal back at the end of the last recession, 2009, where they said, "For the closest thing to a recession-proof place in the Northwest, look no farther than Whitman County." So that kudos to all of us here in Whitman County. Okay, point number 3, residential growth, which of course is part of any healthy economy, is sound in Pullman right now. This graph shows for the last 20 years. It's great being near the airport, though. This graph shows for the last 20 years permits issued for single-family homes and apartments. First thing you probably notice, if you can see the slide where you are, is the line that is pretty dramatic in terms of its fluctuation. Those are apartments permitted. And we see peaks in 2005 and 2013. They usually follow significant enrollment increases at the university. And it's dropped down now in 2014, 2015. Last year we had 100 and, hang on while I look at my notes here, we had 126 apartments that were permitted in the city of Pullman, and 135 apartments are average for us for the last 20 years. So we're hanging right in there, right around normal growth. The single family line is the blue line near the bottom. It's a lot more steady, not as much fluctuation. And again, we're holding our own. Last year we had 50 single-family house permits that were issued, and 60 is our average. And we're actually doing better in terms of both apartments and single-family homes in 2016 than we were in 2015, so we're ahead of schedule there. Interesting fact, 80% of the single-family permits that we're issuing are on Sunnyside Hill, the southwest quadrant of Pullman. I've worked for the city of Pullman for 35 years. I don't ever remember a time where so many of our single-family house permits were concentrated in one part of the city. So that's an interesting fact. And of course, the vast majority of apartments are being built up in this area, north of the university campus. Now, it's hard to see from this photograph, but when I did take this photograph a couple days ago, 92 degrees out, there's a roofer up on top of the roof. And while I was taking the photograph, he asked, well, would you like to come help with the job? And I said, I respectfully declined. Thank you anyway. So I moved on and continued taking my photographs, and he had to continue on the roof. Okay, item number 4. 2015, unfortunately, was a slow year for commercial development. So this graph shows the number of permits that were issued for commercial projects for the last 20 years. And it is difficult to make out the blue from the red. The blue is new permits for new construction. The red is remodels. But you can see from the bar on the far right, that's 2015, that we did pretty well in terms of the number of permits that we issued. So you might say, what's the problem? You're saying 2015 is a down year. But if you look at valuation, again, it's the far right bar there, we were down around $4 million for valuation in 2015. So it was definitely a down year for us in 2015 with regard to commercial permits. A lot of the commercial permits that we issued were for maintenance sheds associated with previous commercial developments, for instance. We've had 7 extraordinary years in the last 20 that are noted here with those bars. 2005 and 2006, we had a lot of SEL projects, the headquarters, the event center, a manufacturing addition. We also had the Fireside Grill restaurant. 2009, that was almost all Walmart, that bar that's represented in 2009. And then 2011 to 2014, we had a series of things that happened there. Really good years for us, a lot of SEL office and research and development facilities. We had the Marriott Residence Inn up here on campus, and we also had Pullman Building Supply that occurred. The last 4 years, we had $18 million in commercial valuation. And so a drop down to $4 million was, quite frankly, a little disappointing, but those things happen from time to time. It also affected our total building permit valuation for the year 2015, as you can see from the bar on the right-hand side. We had $46 million in terms of total building permit valuation last year. That was aided by $6 million in WSU projects because we began issuing permits for WSU projects in July of last year. So when you take away the $6 million for WSU, it was right around average, far less than the previous few years. I mean, 2014 was a record year at $98 million, so you can't have a record year every year, right? The highest value commercial permit that we issued in 2015 was for a new hangar at the airport for Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories, part of a series of hangars. That was a little less than $1 million, and we certainly appreciate that investment. All right, number 5. As compared to 2015, 2016 is shaping up to be a strong commercial development year. So far, 2016 has resembled 2015 in terms of commercial permits, both in terms of number of permits and value. Our highest value permit thus far was a remodel of the Wild Ivy store in the Wheatland Shopping Center for a dentist office, Dr. Sepp, who has an office also in Moscow. That was a little more than $250,000. But we've got a lot of projects in the pipeline, and I'll describe these real briefly since you may not be able to see this chart in the back. We've got a hangar for a fellow named Rick Coulter at the airport. We've got 2 hotel projects, the Courtyard by Marriott, next to the Marriott Hotel here on campus, 122 guest rooms there. In addition to the Hilltop Inn, that would be 28 more guest rooms. And then 2 projects for the Palouse Business Center subdivision, located south of the hospital. There's a child care facility, 15,000 square feet. And then Avalon Healthcare Facility is proposing to move from Military Hill to that subdivision. That is going to be 53,000 square feet of nursing and assisted living care at that site. And then also SEL has a couple projects. The Zocol Beta Building, a companion to its existing Zocol building for research and development, 100,000 square feet of floor area there. And then a new manufacturing building on the Pullman campus. This map shows where those are going to be located. The lower left is where the new Zocol building will be located, next to the existing Zocol building and the event center. And then the upper right is where the industrial building will be located on Andrus Drive, just down the street from Mary Sellers Winery. All right, wrapping it up, whether you like it or not, number 6 is marijuana is now a significant economic factor in the Pullman area. Shelley alluded to this, and I'm going to expound a little bit more on this topic. We in Pullman have 3 retailers that are in operation now. They are all located on Bishop Boulevard in the same approximate area. And then we have the 1 retail store that Shelley mentioned on the Pullman-Moscow Highway. That's set to open soon, as indicated in their open soon sign there. That's in the county, and so the city had no jurisdiction over that particular store. Marijuana businesses are operating in 36 of Washington's 39 counties currently, and Whitman County ranks 21st out of those 36 counties in terms of total sales. So we're in the bottom half. And still, there's a lot of activity that's occurring. I looked at the data from January to April of this year when WSU was in session, aggregate data for the retail stores that we have in place on a monthly basis, and the stores are bringing in on a monthly basis $450,000. They're paying a lot of excise tax to the state, $167,000 they're paying per month based on that amount of revenue. The amount of revenue the city receives in taxes is a little over $6,000 per month. So there's sales tax, and there's a portion of that excise tax that I mentioned there. But obviously, there's a lot of money that's changing hands here. Shelley alluded to the grow operations. There's 4 of them that have been permitted by the county. And they range, they're all out on Airport Road, east of the airport. They range in size from about a half acre to a full acre. The photograph, hard-to-view photograph, is of the greenhouses at Oboid Road and Airport Road, that intersection. 2 of the facilities, in addition to growing, will also process marijuana substance into edibles and liquids. 2 of them are up and running right now, and 2 of them are going to be open soon. So I don't have any sales figures associated with that at this point. It's too early to tell exactly how well they're going to be doing, but obviously, as I mentioned, marijuana is a significant economic factor here. In last year, December, the state changed its allocation for Pullman from a maximum of 3 retail stores to a maximum of 5. And they did that to aid in the distribution of medical marijuana. And so that was a statewide effort. The city is currently in the process of revising its regulations and deciding whether it wants to go from 3 to 5 allowable stores here in the city. And we're holding a public hearing most likely near the end of this month with our planning commission to discuss those very things. The city currently has a moratorium on the establishment of additional marijuana shops while we decide on all that. So with that, you're up to speed on what's going on in commerce in Pullman. Those are the 6 things I think you should know. I thank you for your attention, and I'll turn it back over to Shelley. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. That's fascinating.